in here. All right, guys. Here we go. Maybe you can hear me better now. Okay, guys. This is another video. Okay, it's another video, and in this one, we're going to be talking about promise number 4 of Project 2025. Um, as you can read from the title, it is to secure our God-given individual right to enjoy the blessings of liberty. So we're going to read through it, and I'll give my thoughts on it, and you'll give your thoughts on it in the comment section. Please make sure you're doing that. Like I said, we don't have to agree. We can agree, but we don't have to. That you have the freedom to say whatever you want. Um, just try to make it make sense for me. Okay, so y'all know me. I'm not gonna take a long time to get started. Make sure you are, if you're on YouTube, make sure you're subscribing to the channel. Of course, share the content, leave comment section, always hit the like button. If you're on Facebook, I appreciate you for tuning in. Same thing, make sure you're liking the content, share the content out, and also leave your thoughts in the comment section as well. Now I'm going to share my screen here so that we can go ahead and get started. And like I said, we're going to be going through number 4, promise number 4. You'll see I have some things highlighted because that's where I'm kind of going to go back and those are my talking points. So promise number 4 is to secure our God-given individual right to enjoy the blessings of liberty. It says the Declaration of Independence famously asserted the belief of the America's founders that all men are created equal and endowed with God-given rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. It's the pursuit of happiness, that is the central of America's heroic experiment of self-government. When the founders spoke of the pursuit of happiness, what they meant might be understood today as, in essence, pursuit of blessedness. That is, an individual must be free to live as his creator ordained to flourish. Our Constitution grants each of us liberty to do not what we want, but what we ought. This pursuit of the good life is found primarily in family, marriage, children, Thanksgiving, dinners, and the like. Find happiness through their work. Think of the dedicated teachers or healthcare professionals, entrepreneurs or plumbers throwing themselves into their businesses. Anyone who sees a job well done as a personal reward. Religious devotion and spirituality are the greatest sources of happiness around the world. Still, others find themselves happiest in their local voluntary communities of friends, their neighbors, their civic or charitable work. The American public was founded on principles prioritizing and maximizing individuals' right to live their best life or to enjoy what the framers called the blessings of liberty. It's this radical equality, liberty for all, not just of rights but authority, that the rich and the powerful have hated about democracy in America since 1776. They resent Americans' audacity to insist that we don't need them to tell us how to live. It's this inalienable right of self-direction, of each person's opportunity to direct himself or herself and his or her community to the good, that the ruling class disdains. When the Declaration and Constitution, our nation's founder, handed to us the means which with which we preserve this right. Abraham Lincoln wrote the Declaration as a of gold and a silver frame, the Constitution. So must the next conservative president look to these documents when the elites mount their assault on liberty. Left to our own devices, the American people rejected European monarchy and colonialism, just as we rejected slavery, second-class citizenship for women, mercantilism, socialism, Wilsonian globalism, fascism, communism, and today, wokeism. To the left, these assertions of patriotic self-assurance are just as many signs of our moral depravity and intellectual inferiority, proof that, in fact, we need a ruling elite making decision for us. But the next conservative should be proud, not ashamed of Americans' unique culture of social equality and ordered liberty. After all, the countries where Marxism elites have one political and economic power are all poorer and less free for it. The American states, the United States remains the most innovative and upwardly mobile society in the world. Government should stop trying to substitute its own preferences for those of the people. And the next conservative president should champion the dynamic genius of free enterprise against the grim miseries of elite directed socialism. The promise of socialism, communism, Marxism, progressivism, fascism, whatever name it chooses, is simple. Government control of the economy to ensure can ensure equal outcomes for all people. The people is that it has the problem is that it has never done so. There is no such thing as the government. There are just people who work for the government and wield its power and who, at almost every opportunity, wield it to serve themselves first and everyone else a distant second. This is not a failing of one nation or society or socialist party, but inherent in human nature. Nighttime satellite images of Korean Peninsula famously show the free market South lit up with homes, businesses, and cities electrified from coast to coast. By contrast, communist North Korea is almost completely dark, except for the small dot of the capital city. That's Pyongyang, where a psychotic dictator and his cronies live. The same phenomena is on display in the infuriating fact that the four of the six richest countries in the United States are the suburbs of Washington, D.C., a city infamous for its lack of native productive industries. We see the same corruption expressed on an individual level wherever billionaire climate activists who want to outlaw carbon fueled transportation tied to A-list conferences on their private jets. Or when COVID-19 shut down politicians like former House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and California Governor Gavin Newsom were caught at the hair salon or dining at fancy restaurants after moralizing about how everyone else must stay home and forego such luxuries during the pandemic. For socialists who are almost always well to do, socialism is not a means of equalizing outcomes, but a means of accumulating power. They never get around to helping anyone else. The Soviet Empire was a social and economic failure. North Korea, despite the opulence of its tyrants, is one of the poorest nations in the world. Cuba is so corrupt that the people regularly risk their lives to escape to Florida on rafts. Venezuela was one of the richest nations in South America. Today, a decade after the Marxist dictator took over, 94% of Venezuelans live in poverty. Even socialist Senator Bernie Sanders' home state of Vermont was forced to repeal the state's single payer health care system just 3 years after creating it. In every case, socialists that if only they could direct the economy, everything would be better. Very quickly, everything got worse. In social in socialist nation after socialist nation, the only way the government could keep its disgruntled people in line was to surveil and terrorize them. By contrast, in countries with a high degree of economic freedom, elites are not in charge because everyone is in charge. People work, build, invest, save, and create according to their own interests and in service of the common good of their fellow citizens. There is a reason why the private economy hews the maximum. Customer is always right, while government bureaucracies are notoriously user unfriendly, just as there is a reason why private charities are cheerful and government welfare systems are not. It's not because grocery store clerks and PTA moms are good and federal bureaucrats are bad. It's because private enterprises, for profit or nonprofit, must cooperate to succeed. So, as the American people take back their sovereignty, constitutional authority, respect for their families and communities, they should also take back their right to pursue the good life. Next president should promote pro growth economic policies that spur new jobs and investments, higher wages, and productivity. Yes, that agenda should include overdue tax and regulatory reform, but it should go further and include antitrust against corporate monopolies. It should promote educational opportunities outside the woke dominated system of public schools and universities, including trade schools, apprenticeship programs, and student loan alternatives that fund students' dreams instead of Marxist academics. Just as important as expanding opportunities for workers and small businesses, the next president should crack down on the crony capitalist corruption that enables America's largest corporations to profit through political influence rather than competitive enterprises and customer satisfaction. Analogous pro growth reforms for America's voluntary civil society are also in order. America is not an economy, it is a country. Economic freedom is not only the only important. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and the freedom to assemble also represent key components of the American promise. Today, in addition to problem of big tech, we see speakers at universities shouted down, parents investigated and arrested for attempting to speak at school board meetings, and donors to conservative causes harassed and intimidated. The next conservative president must defend our First Amendment rights. The next session is called Best Effort. It says ultimately, the left does not believe that all men are created. They think they are special. They certainly don't think all people have an unalienable right to pursue the good life. They think only they themselves have such a right, along with moral responsibility to make decisions for everyone else. They don't think any citizen, state, business, church, or charity should be allowed any freedom until they first bend the knee. This book, this agenda, the entire Project 2025 is a plan to unite the conservative movement and the American people against elite rule and woke culture warriors. Our movement has not been united in recent years, and our country has paid the price. In the past decade, though, the breakdown of the family, the rise of China, the Great Awakening, big tech abuses, and erosion of constitutional accountability in Washington have rendered these divisions not just inconvenient but politically suicidal. Every hour the left directs federal policy and elite institutions, our sovereignty, our constitution, our family, and our freedom are a step closer to disappearing. Conservatives have just 2 years and one shot to get this right. With enemies at home and abroad, there is no margin for error. Time is running short. If we fail, the fight for the very idea of America may be lost. But we should take this small window of opportunity we have left to act with courage and confidence, not despair. The last time our nation and movement were defeat, we rallied together behind a great leader and great ideas, transcended our differences, rescued our nation, and changed the world. It's time to do that again. Now, as then, we know who we are fighting and what we are fighting for our republic, our freedom, and for each other. The next conservative president will enter office on January 20th, 2025, with a simple choice: greatness or failure. It will be a daunting test, but no more than every generation of Americans has faced and passed. The conservative promise represents the best effort of the conservative movement in 2023 and the next conservative president's last opportunity to save the republic. Now, in reading this promise, I will say it sounds good. Everything that is being said for the as a majority, it sounds good. But this is where I have a question. It says the Declaration of Independence famously asserted the belief of American founders that all men are created equal and endowed with God given rights to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. Now, this promise specifically, it does highlight the pursuit of happiness. But this is my only thing. This promise, in my opinion, and I could be wrong, it contradicts promise number one, which was fighting for the family, saving the families, right? In order for everyone to be created equal, that means that no matter what your race, gender, color, sexual orientation, um, whatever your identity, sexual identity, your gender identity, whatever, it means that everyone is created equal. Okay, if that is what you're trying to highlight, if all men are created equal, that means that whatever choices and that you make, you are supposed to be equal to the next person. But in promise number one, try to separate, in my opinion, separate the people, and by saying that this is natural and this is unnatural. And because these, if you fit in the natural category, then you should have the right to do this, say this, and you should do this. If you're in the unnatural right, then you should not have the right to do that. So that would contradict that all men are created equal, because you're saying that if you fit in this box, then everything's all good. Excuse me. And if you fit in that box, then we're going to have some problems, and you shouldn't be able to do what everyone else is able to do. So there's a contradiction there. It says our Constitution grants us the liberty to do not what we want, but what we ought. So you're also saying at the same time that our Constitution says that it's not saying, like, basically saying, like, y'all have misconstrued what our the frameworkers of this Constitution actually meant. What they meant was that you do what you ought to do. But in saying that you do what you ought to do, you're telling people what to do. So they're technically not having the freedoms, right, to that First Amendment, that you're saying that we all should be able to protect and basically utilize for our own thing. It says the pursuit of a good life is found primarily in family, marriage, children, Thanksgiving dinners, and the like. Many find happiness through their work. Think of dedicated teachers or healthcare professionals, entrepreneurs or plumbers themselves into their businesses. Anyone who sees a job well done as emotion and spirituality are the greatest sources of happiness. Others find their happiness in their local voluntary community or friends, their neighborhoods, their civic or charitable work. That would include all people. It doesn't matter what side you are on. If these are the things that makes a person happy or that makes that person happy, then they should be have those liberties granted to them. If what you're saying is what you believe, if what they're saying is what they believe, then that should be granted to everyone, not just a certain people because they fit in a certain box. The American Republic was founded on principles prioritizing the maximizing individuals' right to live their best life or to enjoy what the framers called the blessings of liberty. They're saying that the rich, the elites, they resent audacity and insisting that how to live. But yet, in to be honest, in this mandate, that is exactly what's being done. It is a conservative movement, and they're trying to tell everyone how they should live and how they will live. When you take a person's right away to abort, if that is their choice, then you're taking away their choice and you're telling them how to live. You're saying to them, yes, you will have this child no matter what has happened, no matter if you went under some unforeseen circumstances or you were just irresponsible. We're going to tell you what you can and can't do with your body. So you're blaming the left for doing exactly what you're attempting to do. It says, with the Declaration and Constitution, our nation's founders handed to us means with which to preserve this right. If that is the case, then everyone has the means to preserve their rights. So you can't then, in one sentence, say you can't do that. We're gonna make this illegal, and then at the same time say, but when we want the things that we feel like need to be um, in place, or what we want to do, we should preserve the right to be able to do that. So it says, so the next president must look at these documents when the elites mount their next assault on liberty. I just don't like the way that they worded that, because it makes it seem very. It says the American people rejected European monarchy and capitalism just as we rejected slavery. Okay, yeah, that didn't quite happen. That didn't happen until some other people came, woke. At that time, the woke people came and they rejected slavery. When you brought us over, when you brought Africans over here, you did not reject slavery at that point. So I'm not understanding all of a sudden you rejected slavery, because the conservative movement, let's be clear, most of the conservatives come from a Bible Belt type society, if you want to say community. A lot of those are southern states. Let's be clear, or eastern states, and western states as well. So yeah, didn't happen. I'm not understanding what part of the history book you read, but that wasn't it. The second class citizenship for women, that didn't happen either. Women had to fight for their own rights, and yes, eventually a man signed off on it. But honestly, let's be clear, that was probably, there was some type of gain. There was some type of political gain for that, to get women to be able to vote, to get women to be able to work. There was always a gain for it, whether it was a gain in the economy, a gain with the politics. There was already a gain. That's the same reason that slavery was also rejected, because there was a gain. There was a political gain. Um, Mercantilism, socialism, Wilsonian, globalism, fascism, communism, and today wokeism. So you're trying to, again, it's just it's kind of a contradiction, because you're kind of trying to go into a totalitarian type situation. You're trying to go into an anti woke. You're basically saying that being woke, or you know being what's a good word for it? What's a good word for it? Um, Basically having an open mind. Let's break that down. Having an open mind, because that's what technically woke is. You're having an open mind to the truth. You're not blind. You don't have your blinders on. That is what that is. So basically, you're saying that you're against that. You're rejecting that. You want everyone to have those blinders on. You want everyone to have that tunnel vision, and you want everyone to look at what you're saying as the truth, the right, and in your words, what we ought to do. Government should stop trying to substitute its own preferences for those of the people. But then at the same time, you know what? You're contradicting yourself. Governmental control of economy can ensure equal outcomes for all people. Well, if that's the case, stop trying to put people in boxes. Stop trying to put these people in the box over here. You got a race box, you got a class box, you have a heterosexual box, a homosexual box, a transgender box. You have all these small boxes that you're trying to literally divide people into, but then say that we should the government control of the economy can ensure equal outcomes. So do you want us to think for ourselves the way that you said that we got away from the European government to be able to think for self? Or do you want the government control of the economy to ensure equal outcomes for all people? That's giving the government control. So that's what I'm saying. There's a large contradiction here. It says in every case, social elites promise that if only they could direct the economy, everything would be better. You're trying to do the same thing. As this set of conservatives, because it may not be every one, but this particular set of conservatives is trying to do the thing that they are literally saying that the socialist elites are trying to do. However, they're highlighting them and basically saying, no, we're not going to do that to you, but we do still feel that government should control the economy. It says very quickly everything got worse in socialist nation after socialist nation. The only way the government could keep its disgruntled people in line was to surveil and terrorize them. How has that not been done in this country? What are you talking about? Look at all of the police brutality. That's a means of terrorizing. Look at all of these regulations where you're telling people you can't do this, but you can. You can't do this, but that's terrorizing. Look at the fact that our phone lines were tapped. Anybody remember Nixon? Yeah, that's surveillance. The fact that there's cameras on every pole, everywhere. That's not just for safety. That's surveillance. The fact that there's a camera on my computer right now that I don't know when someone's tapping into it or when they're not. That is surveillance. It's a contradiction. So, as the American people take back their sovereignty, constitutional authority, respect for their families and communities, they should also take back their right to pursue that should be for everybody. Again, You're trying to say that these are the things that we should be able to do, but everyone should be able to do it. But yet at the same time, you're also saying that, but if you fit in these boxes and these categories, you don't get the right to do it. We get the right to do it, but you don't. The next president should promote economic policies that spur new jobs and investments, higher wages, and productivity. Yes, that agenda should include overdue tax and regulatory reforms, but it should go further and include antitrust enforcement against corporate monopolies. I'm pretty sure the average American would love to hear you say that. The only thing about that is out of the some of the people that own, or some of the people who have authored the date, are those corporate monopolies. It should promote educational opportunities outside the woke dominated system of public and universities, including trade schools, apprenticeship programs, and student loan alternatives that fund student dreams instead of a market of Marxist academics. But at the same time, in another promise, you're trying to derail the education system. You're trying to dismantle it and say that basically, if you don't follow what we feel is right, then we're not going to give you any federal funding. If you don't teach what we want you to teach, then we're not going to give you any funds. How is that promoting educational opportunities outside the so-called woke dominated system? Make that make sense. It's a contradiction. Just as important as expanding opportunities for workers and small businesses, the next president should crack down on the crony capitalist corruption that enables America's largest corporations to profit through political influence rather than competitive enterprises and customer satisfaction. Say less. Freedom of religion, freedom of speech, and freedom of to assemble also represent key components of the American promise. If that is the case, that includes everyone. So how can you tell another person that they practice a certain religion, so therefore they should be able to have the freedom of speech? However, if you're talking about this, I hear it, it shouldn't be said. The freedom to assemble. You're sending police and the military in when people assemble for people peaceful protesting. You're gassing them. You're shooting them with rubber bullets. You got people standing out with guns, ready to shoot. How is that giving them their freedom to assemble? Where's the freedom? It's contradictory. The next conservative president must defend our First Amendment rights. Well, if he's going to, who is our? Who is our? Is our only the people that fit in this box over here? Or is our everyone that actually lives here? Ultimately, the left does not believe that all men are created equal. They think they are special. That is a projection, because you're in the last couple promises are saying that everyone is not created equal. And if you're in this, fit in this or this box, that you are special. So that is a projection. You're literally saying you're blaming it on the left, but as this conservative group that has put this together, it's actually you that are saying that very thing. That you are special. And because you are special, you should have all these liberties. And because these people are different, they should not. It says this book, this agenda, the entire Project 2025 is a plan to unite the conservative movement and the American people against and the woke culture warriors. People being woke is what has progressed us into where we are. If that woke culture, that is what integrated schools. That is what integrated communities. That woke culture, that is what has allowed for more scientific and more technology based uh, situations and platforms and things. That has what has helped the education, and it also has helped the economy because it has also created a lot of different jobs. That has also that woke, that sense of woke, as you want to call it, is what ensures that people who look like me or look brown or look red or yellow, as well as look white, can all work, make money, take care of our families. Because if we had stayed closed minded with blinders on, look with our tunnel vision, then we would still have white only and black only water fountains. We would still have our cities being drowned out with dams and covered, made into watery graves. We would still have places like Tulsa, Oklahoma getting burned down because those people were thriving, but they didn't fit in the status quo of our. I could go on and on. I really could. In the past decade, through the breakdown of the family, the rise of China, the great awakening, big tech's abuses, and the erosion of the constitutional accountability and rendered these divisions not just inconvenient, but politi- politically suicidal. Okay, who is being inconvenienced? You're saying the breakdown of the family. Okay, everyone has the freedom to do what they want, right? Oh, I'm sorry, do what they ought. Okay, that's the difference. If everyone should have the freedom to do what they want as long as it's within the bounds of the law, meaning no violence, no stealing, as long as it's not harming or hurting anyone else, if they should have those freedoms, then even if people chose not to get married, but yet they're still taking care of their homes, still taking care of their children, why are people worried? Why are people concerned? That the government would be concerned about whether a person is married or not is because when you file for that marriage license, that goes into the state, right? The state can govern that information. It's a way for them to keep track of you. You two people become one household, one basically one entity, right? Okay. This is my belief. Two people, we're in a credit-based society. You have one person, if not both people, hopefully both, trying to build their credit. They can bounce off one another with just building their credit. When it comes to income, they can bounce off one another. People always talk about loans and grants and all these things. They can do that with one another instead of being considered just one. And now, because that person can't do it, you can't do it either because you're one in the eyes of the law. I'm not saying that anything is wrong with getting married. For those who want to do that, it's not a problem. Been there, done that either. And I do not think that'll break down your family because you still have them. They do not necessarily have to live and put it on paper. That's just my opinion on it. If you have a different opinion, understandably, that's your opinion. It's fine. The rise of China. Y'all, the government, decided to do business with China. That's what y'all decided. And China decided that, you know what, we're going to put a lot of capital. We're going to put a lot of resources and a lot of our people because they have a 1.4 billion people over there. And we're going to put them to work and we're going to figure out ways that we can take care of our people, even if that is being the World Trade Center of all goods or the majority of the world's goods. I mean, the only thing is it's like we can't be mad at them for being smart. If anything, get like them. So there's no point in you being upset with the rise of China. That is a whole different country. They're going to do whatever they're going to do regardless. You either partake in it or you don't. But there's no reason for us to be all up in arms about the rise of China. They put their brains to use, and it worked out for them. The Great Awakening, big tech abuses. I guess they wanted everybody to stay asleep. I guess, I don't know. Stay asleep. Just do what we say do. Don't worry about it. Don't think about it. You don't have to work. You don't have to think. You know, big tech companies. I mean, it's technology. The stuff that we use every day, even down to electricity. I mean, it's old school technology, but technology nonetheless. And then the erosion of the constitutional accountability in Washington. Well, think about it is when you have a bunch of people that are a part of a system, right? And you take a bunch of people and you make them a part of that system. Unfortunately, you can't, in the words of Elon Musk, you can't win them all. Meaning, there's some people that are going to come in, they're going to have their own right. It may not be in the for the betterment of the next person. So what you have to do is try to weed out those corrupt individuals and replace them with people that is beneficial for everyone and not just their own personal gain. So for me, as so many people are again a part of that system, it's kind of to be expected. So you just have to do what you have to do to get the bad ones out and put and replace them with good ones. Hopefully. Our sovereignty, our constitution, our families, and our freedom are a step closer to disappearing. Let me tell you, it's not going to disappear. And the reason why is because there are always going to be people who have those older ideologies and beliefs, and they're going to continue to do that, even if other people decide to do, other things. Even if other people decide to go elsewhere, there's always going to be those people who do the traditional or take the traditional route, and they're just going to, I mean, they'll always be there. So it won't be disappearing. You just may not have as many sheep following the herder, but you'll still have some sheep. So you don't have to worry about that. They're not going anywhere. Is the end of it. Okay, guys, we done got to the end of another video. Like I said, this is promise number 4. Let me see what's coming up next. Let me see what we'll be talking about. And that's taking the reins of government. So that is what we're going to be discussing in our next video. Enjoy the content. We do not have to agree. It is perfectly fine. These are just my thoughts. Please leave your thoughts in the comment section below. And then also make sure you're sharing this information out, because other people also need to know and understand what it is. That's why we're reading through it instead of me just giving my opinion. We'll want to read through it and so that you can listen to it, hear it for yourself, and you can, you know, deduct or conclude, whatever whatever conclusion you come to. You kind of have a better understanding as to what these people are trying to put in place as of next year. If you're again on YouTube, the channel is in the public in the court of public opinion. I don't know why I stumbled over that, but it's of public opinion. If you want to type it in, it's of course the @ in the in the court of public opinion 5999. You have to put that 5999, otherwise you're not going to get to the actual channel. But make sure you are subscribing to that channel. Make sure you're also leaving comments, liking the video. Same thing for Facebook. Like the video, leave something in the comments. And for both platforms, make sure you are sharing this information out so that other people can get the information. Okay. All right. So we're gonna end right there. That is all for today. Thank you guys so much for tuning in. And let me see if I can get back to my screen here. There we go. Yep. That's going to be all for today. Thank you so much. And I will see you in another video.